About a month and a half ago, MKBHD Marcus Brownlee published his review of the Humane AI pen. And to say that it wasn't a very favorable review is a bit of an understatement. And this video caused a huge uproar in the tech community, in the review space, and really started a conversation about the influence that influencers have. And is it good or bad? Now, a few days later, Marquez followed up with his reply as a video. And this video, I think, right now is required viewing for anyone doing reviews on YouTube because Marquez hits on a few real key points. And I've been thinking about this topic of integrity in YouTube reviews ever since. And in this video, Marquez goes through a bunch of points about the Humane AI pin, about the fallout and the conversation in the tech community on Twitter and everything else. But he goes into defining what is a review. And his definition is very, very simple. What Marquez says is a review is someone uses a product and delivers their opinion on it. Their opinion on it. Now, that seems pretty self-explanatory, but I think a lot of people, reviewers and people who watch reviews, lose sight of that. That a review is an opinion piece. It's someone telling you, the viewer, their experience with that product. Marquez also added something else that I think is very overlooked by, again, reviewers and people who watch them. And what he adds is, if those reviews are not honest, they're basically useless. And I completely agree. A reviewer needs to have integrity, and integrity comes from consistency. A consistent POV that's told through all of the content that a reviewer puts onto this platform, reviewing whatever it is they review about. A reviewer is a content creator and they're creating a body of work and they're talking about things from their POV, and that's really important. And they're talking about their experiences, their impressions, and they're using their own words to describe these products that they're using. And from there, in my opinion, a viewer can decide a couple things. They can either identify with that reviewer and say, this reviewer shares very similar tastes or preferences to me, so I'm going to watch this reviewer because if they like it or they have the same problem with it, chances are I am too. Or someone can watch that reviewer and say, I completely disagree with pretty much everything this reviewer says or does, but I'm still going to watch them because I want to get out of my echo chamber where everyone that I do watch just says the same thing over and over. I know this person's going to have a different opinion on product that I'm probably going to want to at least factor in. And I think both of those are really powerful and really useful for anyone watching reviewers. Reviews are for those who watch them, the viewers. Now, what I'm defining as a viewer here are really consumers or enthusiasts, someone who's interested in maybe purchasing that product, or maybe they're not interested in purchasing that product, but they're interested in what the reviewer has to say about that product because it relates to another product that they have or that they're thinking about buying. And they're just looking for, all the possible angles for what they're interested in. That's what the reviewer needs to remember. They're responsible to the viewer, and only the viewer, not the manufacturer, not the brand, the viewer. A reviewer should not worry about upsetting a brand or a manufacturer. Our duty is not to give a good spin to a bad product. Bad products give bad reviews, and that's something MKBHD says in that video. It's not that I'm ignoring the brands or the manufacturers in this conversation. In fact, I might have a little bit of a different perspective here. Professionally speaking, before I started this YouTube channel, I am a product designer. I have a long, over 25-year career in product design, both digital and physical products. And I've been involved in many product teams that have put a product out in the world and waited for feedback, waited for reviews. And trust me, the product team is very aware of the reviews. And I guarantee there's at least one person on that team that is watching every video, reading every blog, reading every article about the thing that that team put out in the world. And they're collecting that feedback and it's going into their Confluence or Microsoft Teams or wherever they have their knowledge base. And the whole team is made aware of it, whether that's in daily stand-ups or through presentations. The team knows. And a good product team wants to know. They want that constructive feedback. Frankly, they want that bad feedback because they want to understand if they put a product out in the marketplace that hit the mark of what they were trying to achieve, or maybe they overlook something and they want to know where are those gaps. And that's the important point here. A good product team, a good brand wants, I'm not going to say bad feedback, but they want constructive feedback. They don't want everything to be happy and glossy and rosy and perfect all the time because there's no value in that. If they want that, they're going to go through their PR, they're going to go through their own internal marketing, they're going to put stuff out on social media. And yes, sometimes influencers are part of that, but generally speaking, I think a good brand is going to influencers, they're going to reviewers on YouTube to really tell the actual story, the full story, to get those opinions, to get that feedback out in the marketplace and have that conversation said. Just because the team is hearing and taking in this feedback doesn't mean that it goes up the chain to management. Now, often the product team is part of a larger sort of group, probably a product vertical. Like in footwear, you're going to have running, basketball, tennis. And there's usually a master brand on top of all of that that has some sort of direction for the year or season. And that stuff filters into each product line within each one of those verticals or categories. So that product team that did put out that product that is hearing that feedback might not necessarily be able to get it all the way up the chain or make anything actionable. And this is even more difficult with physical products like running shoes, which is what I cover, because it's not like software where you can issue a software update. Once you put a physical product out there in the marketplace, it is something you don't generally update until there's a new version. You can make small tweaks in the manufacturer, with running shoes, maybe change the overlays, maybe change formulas of things, but nothing is going to be drastic. Anything drastic is going to be a massive failure at some point that has to be addressed. If it's minor things, you're probably only going to address the most minor or low-hanging fruit things to address. But this is where a product team that is putting out a physical product really wants to know this stuff because, again, they've developed a use case for that product through the development of that product, and they want to know if that's actually how the consumers are not only seeing that use case, but actually using it in that way. And all these products are tested, but when it's out in the marketplace, it's really going to be beyond testing. You're really going to see how people are actually using it and the problems you're really running into. And all of that feedback is actually really useful. It's really good. So a product team or a company or a brand that only wants positive reviews, and that's all they want out there in the marketplace, as a reviewer, you've got to have red flags when you see that because that's not how it works. That just is not how it works. And you as a reviewer need to be the one who decides and has the integrity to decide what you do with that. But this is where it gets really tricky for the reviewer. Now, Kofuzi, who is probably the biggest solo creator in the running shoe and running shoe review space, again, if you're watching this from the running space, you know who Kofuzi is. He posted a link to this video from Gerald Undone, who comes from the camera space, the camera review space, talking a lot about some drama that was going on in the camera review space. I promise you, every review space on YouTube has some drama either currently going on or they just had it or there's something starting. That's just the nature of reviews on YouTube right now. But in the Gerald Undone video, he goes into something that I think is, again, required watching for any reviewer on YouTube. And what that is he goes through the reviewer life cycle and he breaks it up into really 3 stages. The first stage is you're new, no one knows who you are, and you have no access to anything, only what you can buy. And for something like running shoes, that is something that's not the most expensive thing on the planet. I realize the costs are going up, but compared to like tech and cameras and cars and all the other stuff that reviewers review on YouTube, running shoes are pretty simple to acquire for the most part. But that new YouTuber that has no access to brands and is only reviewing what they can get their hands on is really working to establish themselves, build an audience. You're being really creative. It's really interesting. It's really inspiring. This is a phase I've really been going through since I started this channel almost a year and a half ago now. And this is the foundation period where you're establishing your integrity as a creator, as a channel, as a reviewer. And it's vitally important because the next phase, the phase 2, as Gerald Undone says, is now that you have reach, brands are coming to you. They're reaching out to work with you. And this is where that integrity often will be challenged. And something Gerald Undone says in this video is that this really is an inflection point. Don't fall into the trap of pandering to brands at this point. Remember what got you there in the first place, that creativity and the enthusiasm that you brought when no one knew who you are, when you didn't have any reach. And this stuff's really of mine right now because, as I said, I am just entering this phase 2. I'm just getting brands reaching out to me. I'm getting invited to press events. I'm getting products sent to me. It's all just starting and it's exciting. But a bad product is still a bad product, and that's not going to change my POV on it. And a brand that wants to work with me saying that shouldn't change whether that brand wants to work with me or not. Because again, product teams want these reviews. They want this feedback. They don't want everything rosy. Now, in the running shoe space specifically, there are a couple things that are unique to everything that I talk about on this channel. As I said, running shoes are a physical product. Once you put it out in the world, unless there's a major problem, you're not really going to change it. It's not something you can address with a software update. Changes in products really don't come until the next generation of the product. And with something like running shoes, it's very, very subjective. What I like, what I feel, how it works with my biomechanics and my foot could be probably very different than you. But this is where I'm saying that body of work and this POV that I've been consistently putting out there. Consistency is very important because, again, as a viewer, you've probably watched my stuff and identified with something I said that I'm similar to your taste, or maybe I'm similar to how you run, or maybe I'm completely opposite. But you're going to take that into consideration as you're listening to my review. Gerald Undone also says there's a third stage to the reviewer life cycle, and that's the you're over it, the jaded phase. Now, I think I'm very far away from that, but I think we've all watched reviewers that it's obvious they're getting to that stage or they're at that stage because something just changes about their content. Personally speaking, I think I'm very far away from the stage 3 of the reviewer life cycle. I love what I'm doing here. I love the content I'm putting out, and I'm very excited to be making this content. And that is important to be mindful of no matter what stage of the review life cycle that you're in. With reach comes distractions. But don't forget what got you here in the first place. Stay interested. Remember why you started making this content. Remember why you started talking about, in my case, running shoes or running tech or whatever it is you want to review. You need to hold on to that because, again, that's that consistency that goes back to that foundation that you've already built. But also stay focused on what does interest you. As I get more exposure and ability to work with brands and product teams, I'm still going to focus in on what's interesting to me. I'm not planning on covering every single product that's offered to me. I'm only going to cover the products that I'm interested in that I feel like I can give a very honest and direct POV on. I'll put links to MKBHD's videos and Gerald Undone's video in the description. I encourage everyone to go watch those videos. And like I said, if you're a reviewer on YouTube, whether that's in the running shoe space that I'm in or any other space that may be watching this video, they should be required viewing for anyone creating reviews on YouTube. But I'm going to leave you with this. Stay humble, stay honest. Don't forget what got you here and why you started making this content in the first place, and maintain your integrity because that is the most important thing that you have as a reviewer.